Engaging, enlightening, informative. This is WLOX News This Week.
Hi, I'm Dave Elliott, and welcome to this special edition of WLOX News This Week, our first show of 2024. Thanks for joining me up here in Mississippi's capital city. The 2024 legislative session is underway. In 2023, Governor Tate Reeves was reelected to a second term. His inauguration is set for Tuesday. We start this morning's show with a one-on-one interview with the governor at the governor's mansion. Governor Tate Reeves, thanks so much for joining us.
It's great to be here in 2024.
So when you are now entering your second term, your last term, do you approach it differently in terms of attitude, management style, or the way you plan to deal with the legislature than you did in 2019? Do you have a different mindset?
I think I probably do have a slightly different mindset because I had spent 8 years as lieutenant governor, and when you're lieutenant governor, literally the entire world from a work standpoint revolves around legislation and what happens in the Mississippi Capitol. And clearly that is true largely with the media around the state as well. But being governor is so much more than that. And so it's a very important piece of the overall process, dealing with the legislature and dealing with the legislation that comes out. But it's a small piece of the overall job of being governor.
You have your inauguration coming up. During the 23 campaign, you ran on Mississippi momentum. It's Mississippi's time. Mississippi is in a pretty good place financially. How would you describe the fiscal situation in the state right now?
Well, I will tell you the theme of the inauguration is going to be exactly that, Mississippi's time, because I really do believe that it is Mississippi's time. We're beginning to see a lot of progress in a lot of areas that hasn't seen much progress in the state for many, many years. You talk about the financial situation that we're in. We're in the best financial shape we've ever been in. We're in the best fiscal shape we've ever been in. And that fact allows us hopefully to make some progress on some initiatives that I think are really important to the future of our state. The fact of the matter is, we've collected just shy of $8 billion each of the last 2 or 3 years. Our current revenues are on pace to be in that same upper $7 to $8 billion range. And when I went out as Lieutenant Governor, Dave, our total budget was $5.7 billion. Now, the budget has grown over the last 4 years, some of which was for things that we needed to do as a state that were core functions of government. There's also been a lot of, the legislature spent a lot of money on various projects that probably are less important in the overall scheme of things. And so what I was most encouraged about this week is hearing new Speaker of the House, Jason White, implore the House of Representatives to think big, think about big items that they can enact that can make a huge difference. And because of where we are financially, obviously the elimination of the income tax is one of those things that comes to mind.
Well, on the subject of eliminating the state income tax, Mississippi did take a step in that direction, now to a flat 4% tax. You would like to see a complete elimination. We'd be competitive with the Tennessees, Floridas, Texas. I'm not sure the legislature has an appetite to do that. What's your view on that?
Well, first of all, let's brag about what we've been able to accomplish so far, and you mentioned it, and that is we've been able to now have a flat income tax of 4%. So there are 9 states in America that have no income tax. And of the 41 states in America that do have an income tax, Mississippi now has the 5th lowest. So the 4% bracket puts us as the 5th lowest amongst the 41 that have an income tax. So we should brag about that. That's something that's very positive. It's a very good movement. But I will tell you, I think if we're going to be competitive with Texas, if we're going to be competitive with Tennessee, if we're going to be competitive for Florida, and by the way, when I say competitive, it's not just for new jobs, although job creation is the thing that I want to focus the most on over the next 4 years. But it's not just being competitive in bringing new jobs here. It's about bringing people here as well. You talk about population growth in the Southeast, and the 3 states that are leading the way without question are Texas and Tennessee and Florida. That's where the population is moving to from the Northeast, from the far West, into the South in general. But those 3 states specifically are leading the way. And I think that this is an opportunity for our state to take a huge step forward. But with respect to your question as to will there be an appetite in the legislature? There is no doubt in my mind that there is an appetite in the Mississippi House of Representatives.
Yeah, the Senate is a different animal. And I've even talked to some of your fellow Republicans about that, and they seem like they want to kind of take a wait-and-see attitude and see what happens with this first phase of the income tax cut before really pulling the trigger on eliminating it altogether. What would you say to them?
Well, I think we should eliminate the income tax. I think the sooner we do it, the better. The more competitive we can be more quickly. And look, I certainly understand anyone's desire to take a wait-and-see approach, to do the prudent thing, to be smart with the financial resources we have. But what you can't do is you can't say we're going to take a wait-and-see approach on the revenue side by cutting taxes while increasing the amount of money you spend on recurring expenses in the budget by hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars every year. Because if you want to take a wait-and-see approach, then don't grow government at the same time that you're waiting to see what happens in the revenue side.
You know, you talk about how much revenue Mississippi has right now and the rainy day fund, everything. You have a lot of people in the legislature, mostly Democrats, are saying, well, now's the time to spend. I mean, are you more conservative about maybe saying, we're in a good spot right now, let's not go overboard on expanding government?
Well, what I would tell you is you've got to look at things in two different ways, and that is, number one, the amount of money that the state has already collected over the last several years, which has been put in the bank account, either in the rainy day fund or in the capital expense fund. And those monies now, as they sit there, are really one-time monies because they were collected in years past, have not yet been spent. And so I do think it's a good time to spend those monies on projects that have real long-term potential, like infrastructure, for instance. We increased funding by about $400 million last year at the Mississippi Department of Transportation, for instance. So we're able to do more maintenance work on our highways. We're actually able to restart our capacity programs at the Department of Transportation. And so I think when you look at those monies that are set aside, either primarily in the capital expense fund, now is the time to spend that to improve infrastructure and other core functions of government.
On the subject of cutting taxes, it was very popular during the 23 campaign with your opponent, Brandon Presley, to eliminate the grocery tax, take that 7% sales tax off groceries. The thinking being it'll help working families, it'll help people on fixed incomes. And I think that there is some momentum over at the Capitol to do that this year. Would you support that?
Well, I'm never going to be opposed to cutting taxes, but what I will tell you is we don't really have a grocery tax. We have a sales tax on all items, and so I think the better economic move, if you're looking at long-term economic progress for the state, is to eliminate the income tax. That's where you can see real economic benefit as a state, and so I think that's a far better option. I think most Republicans believe that is a far better option. If you want more of something, which we want more income in the state of Mississippi, then you tax it less. And so I think most Republicans are in line with my views that the elimination of the income tax is a better decision.
Well, you wouldn't be opposed to
I don't think there's any doubt that there are a lot of Democrats that think that they want to eliminate the grocery tax. But I personally believe that the elimination of the income tax is the better move.
Okay, Governor, sit tight for just a second. We have to take a break. Stay with us. We'll be right back with more with Governor Tate Reeves.